Hello everyone, nice to see some people I know and some other people. So I'm Mugen, I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Runelabs. We build like Onchain games and like tooling. That's my Twitter by the way, if someone wants it. I just wanted to come up here and rant a bit about games and Onchain games and talk about game world. Yeah, so that's the plan. I think the first point I kind of want to talk about is that a lot of people say on-chain games use composability. I think it's just a fancy way of saying modding. It's like it's basically the same thing, and I'm gonna kind of prove my point here with a few examples. Who knows this logo? Who knows it? So all the people who played games in the 2009, 10, 11, etc. know the source engine. It was created by Valve. And this was kind of, I think, one of the first examples of composability, like modding in general, like really powerful. Because like we hear this argument in like blockchain games, like you could have an item as an NFT on this game and you could use it on another game. Well, actually that already exists since then, because we have like, for example, the Gravity Gun, which is a Half-Life item, which has been like seen everywhere. Gary's mod is a perfect example, but we also have like the same Gravity Gun in Minecraft, which has like no digital space connection, no network connection. It just exists because communities and like network effects are like way more powerful than tech, at least like right now, for this type of stuff. And like we even have like with Half-Life Alyx, which is the unofficial Half-Life 3, we get like the Gravity Gloves, which is like a variation, and this is basically a staple of games. It's like a non-fungible token. So, I mean, like, it's the same thing here, like, okay, this is a really niche game, because I'm a nerd, but I think a lot of people know this character. It's from TF2, one of Valve's games, and actually, this character appears in many different games on Steam that have nothing to do with Valve. And so Dungeon Defenders, which is a game made by this random studio, actually has the pyro in the game as a familiar. So when we talk about composing items between games, it actually already exists, and it was done like since the mid-2000s. So I think that like that appeal is maybe not that interesting as what people think in this space. That's my opinion. And like same thing with composability. We have like these crazy stories about mods becoming products. I think these are like the two iconic examples of indie games turning mods into like true games. Binding of Isaac Anti-Birth was a mod that was built over a year and a half by a single dude on the Binding of Isaac game, the most legendary roguelike. And once the creator, Edmund Macmillan, found this mod, it was like, wait, why didn't you contact me? Let's port it. And then Binding of Isaac Repentance came out a year later, which is actually just a Nancy-Birth port with extra features from the creator. So they hired a dude and it happened. Same thing with Factorio. Space Exploration was a mod, and now Space Age is out, which came out like a few months ago. So like we've got like really powerful examples of composability in like traditional games. So it's hard to find a good argument for on-chain games and like why they should exist, really. And okay, this is also a final reference. It's also a reference to my name, at least my crypto name, Mugen. This is a game called Mugen, which is a fighting game where you've got Ronald McDonald fighting probably Goku here. And like this is basically a fighting game that's fully composable. This is the character list, by the way. So yeah, quite a lot. You've got some Zelda, you got some random stuff, probably some presidents in there, comic book characters, you've got everything. This is, I think, like one of the best composability examples that exist on Earth, and that exists since more than 20 years. So, why are we doing on-chain games then? Well, yeah, that's a question. Or I think rather, a better question is, what actually decentralization enables us to do extra than what like these examples have shown us? Yeah, so I personally think it boils down to money and content. For those who don't know, who has never worked in the modding industry, it's a horrible industry. It has a lot of users. Like this is the curve. It has, like this is Vortex Mods, one of the modding platforms, and it has like 1.2 billion downloads. So it's a lot. It's a lot of players. And it's also a platform that barely survives through ads, because there's this thing in games which we call the EULA, which every game has, and it's rules on what you can and cannot do on their game. And like Nintendo's notorious because they used to ban users to make content on their games. You couldn't even like make YouTube videos. But like basically every game says you can't make money. The Minecraft Fuller says you're not allowed to make money on mods, so you cannot sell them. The only thing that happened, I think, with shared revenue at the start was Bethesda, and they were like, okay, we're going to be generous. We're going to give you 30% of the money you make, and we'll take the 70% cut. So that didn't last long. Yeah, so coming back to this slide, this is kind of a really cool example, but also like a sad thing about Web2 is like the guy who made this and the guy who made this, they had to be hired by the team. Like Edmund Macmillan had to reach out and hire this guy so that he could create a successful product. If Edmund Macmillan never saw this or wasn't interested, that dude just spent a year and a half building a product with no monetization views, basically. So this is a really positive story and like cool modding experience, but it's also showing like how constrained like traditional games are in this composability vision. So I think it's like, yeah, it shows what can happen, but also like the pitfalls of Web2 games in general. Yeah, so like obviously like the next point that some people are gonna raise is, well, there's Roblox and Fortnite that exist, and those work well, they have shared revenue. So these are interesting models. So I've actually worked with UEFN, Unreal Engine Fortnite editor, and actually deployed 2 games on it. It's not fun, for a few reasons. One, it's money is abstracted. How do you, what's the cut? So they tell you you get 70% cut, they take 30%. Well, what money? Is it per user? What's the system? And it's super abstracted. And once you start like leaning into it and meeting people at Epic, you learn that there's a lot of insider's tricks. It's an insider's game. You need to have your players stay at least 40 minutes in your game to get a good yield, a good revenue. So you need to find tactics in the game to make people stay through lobbies, etc. But like normal people don't know about this stuff. So it's very much an insider's game where you could kind of play it to maximize your profit, because everything is basically abstracted. You don't see anything. And like that's the power of blockchain, because now we have another example, which is fully on chain, which is the loop survivor system, where it's super transparent. It's like you pay $150 or $350 to play your game, and it shows you where the money goes. Exactly. There's a creator, there's a VRF, there's the client provider, and there's the top players of the game. Super transparent, it's great. If someone wants to create a custom front end for Loop Survivor, well, he knows that he's going to get 81 cents per game. It's very, very simple, and this transparency just basically encourages people to build all this composability stuff. So now I'm going to start shilling my game, because my game also, I think, kind of tries to respond to this issue. So Ponziland is like this kind of social financial layer. It's a DeFi game, but it's a DeFi game that has no value inside of the game. So what I'm saying is we don't have a token in the game, we don't have NFTs that you make that creates value, where the users are dependent on these items in game to maintain their value. We are just this social layer where people can put in any token they want permissionlessly and basically leverage the other players and play against each other and compete in the kind of financial real estate market. So it's very much a DeFi protocol that's gamified. So the kind of a core game loop, well, this is how it looks first. You can see like different startnet communities here. This is Lords, this is Paper, and like it's kind of like letting people use their own community tokens, and we are just this social financial layer where you just put your stuff in. We don't we basically just hold the value, kind of like the DeFi protocol, like gamified DeFi. That's kind of what we're going for here. Yeah, so this is why I said like you buy land and you put any token you want on it, any token, permissionlessly, and then basically you're competing against your neighbors. So you are losing money because you're paying your neighbors the token that you staked. They are losing money because we're paying the token that they staked. So it's basically what you can think of kind of as a short / DCA. It's like a DCA short, which you could accrue value if you predict correctly the markets. So yeah, like a mix of, like financial, like trading on how the markets move with some real estate kind of goodness. And like finally, like the kind of loop is once you cash out, you could either reinvest it or just leave and take the profits. Very much a DeFi protocol. So yeah, coming back to kind of this whole idea with composability, like I'm a big believer in games, like no one should build the world computer. No one should build this layer of digital physics that everyone controls. Like everybody's going to use. Like if someone creates this 2D map with like positioning, like some games may use it, but like other games won't. And like it's not realistic to think you can create the biggest metaverse platform on earth. Like people want different constraints, want different graphics, want different kind of utility based on what they want. I believe more in like the idea of people are going to create these interesting layers, and then humans are going to decide how they want to compose it. So like one of the really good examples of a good layer would be how like Diablo, is there not on the other side? Yeah. So like market like this is like the easiest thing that all of us understand because money, it makes sense. Like Diablo, like for example Diablo 2, they had the whole ruby crystal thing, where they were so rare and so valuable, there was like a third-party market on it, and people would sell it on eBay. And so like having these intermediate layers of just finance, just having like this ruby crystal interrupt between games is kind of like the simplest way we can think of it. But like you could also interrupt like game loops, like a very, very simple game loop, the winners of yesterday's Starting with Hacker House 10%, shout out to you. Like that's like a cool, fun game layer that you can interoperate to like into different games, and like 10% can use any token, so it could be like focused to go with one community, it could be focused to go with another community, and interop with one of these market layers. It doesn't have to be all of them, it could be a few of them, and then you've got like these social aspects that kind of emerge out of these like different layers while being composed together. So I think, in general, what I'm saying is, let's try not to make Web2 games on Web3 with just ownership. Let's try to like find ways to create these unique layers and interactions that I've never seen before. And like that's, I think, the appeal that we're going to get with fully on-chain games. So yeah, that's basically my whole run on on-chain games and games in general and what I personally love as a gamer. And follow us for Ponziland. Third playtest is out this week, and mainnet soon. Not giving a date.